Okay, this is what I'm going to hand out to you right now. This lovely study guide for your final. I am not going to go into significant detail about this today. I hope you find it fairly self-explanatory. I love that there's stuff just laying around here from the last class. I'll go into much more detail of this, over the next week. But I know some of you want to begin studying. I would encourage you to begin studying so that way you don't get overwhelmed come next week. Like, wow, did I make too few? But I handed you one out first. You will notice that you and I have done all of these systems. Ones you may not be familiar with would be these guys right here. Lymphatic, digestive, respiratory, urinary. We're going to toss through little pieces of those over the course of the next week and 2 days. What's that? Yeah. We did circulatory. We have not done respiratory. Then we talked about lungs in the circulatory system. Okay? Will they be in nearly as much detail as we've done the other systems? No. Does that mean they're not as important? No. You still can't live without them. But unless we continue until August, we would not get all the stuff we wanted done in. No takers for August? No? Y'all got better things to do. I agree. Okay? So we'll talk more about this in the future, but I wanted to give it to you now. Today, where we are going to go is the digestive system, which is on page 400 in your textbook.
We're not studying for our test tomorrow?
We've done that. Yeah, we've done that. You mean that whole 3-day video we watched about the birthing process? Yeah, and then the whole lecture we had after that about the birthing process? The role of surfactant. I'll pull that up here so you can see it. I'll take quick questions. I'm sorry, I thought you all were all comfortable. That's what we've been doing the last 2 days.
When you say sequence of events, though, like you mean like what, like first trimester, this is what's happening, baby's this big, it's growing like that? What's your guys?
Hold on, let me pull it up here. Please. The sequence of events. The sequence of events is the birthing process we're talking about. So birthing process, what happens? Oxytocin is the hormone that... No, relaxin is the one that lets the hips relax out. It makes the uterus contract, right? Oxytocin does. Begins this process of labor, right? Baby's head is down, so it's pushing against that cervix. Uterus is contracting, right? To spread that cervix, to efface it, to thin it, and also to dilate it, to open it, right? The placenta, that membrane that's around the baby, right? Breaks. That's what we call your water breaking, right? All the fluid, all that amniotic fluid comes out. And that's your trigger that, oh yeah, this is coming, this baby is coming. That's always what they show on TV, right? Oh, my water just broke. Okay, go to the hospital quick, right? It's not exactly like that, but that's the trigger that, hey, it's coming. This baby is going to be born shortly.
No.
Then what happens? Baby starts coming out, right? Baby starts coming out. The baby is born. What has to come next? The umbilical cord follows out the baby, you're right. The umbilical cord is attached to what? The placenta. Then that's so you have to have it. Basically, there's these two birthing processes: the baby coming out and then the afterbirth, the placenta being birthed. Right?
I thought you were asking.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. Yes, ma'am?
Why is that when you get older, like during like adulthood, things just start to go down?
Gravity.
Not just that. I mean, like, no, I mean as in like in eternal, like people become more susceptible to like illnesses and stuff when you get older. You get sick more often.
Sure, right. Just
Shouldn't be getting stronger.
no, you're. Have you ever?
It's just like baby when you back into like a baby in the end, basically.
I'm with you. Yeah. No, you're true. Have you ever taken a copy or a picture or something and put it on a copy machine and then copied it? And then took that picture you copied and put it on a copy machine and copy it? And then take that picture that you just copied and copy it again? Do you know what happens to the copy? Like the picture? It fades because black. Eventually you can't even see what it is, right? Even though it started out this perfectly crystal clear picture, right? Your cells in your body have copied themselves literally millions of times by the time you are dead. Maybe not millions. An awful lot of times. Millions is an awful lot of times. And so basically they start to degrade. These little pieces on the end of the DNA that kind of wear off. And they really think that that's what causes us to age. Your immune system doesn't function as well. Your heart doesn't function as well. All the things that keep you healthy don't work as good as an older person as you do as a younger person. Yeah. So, yeah, it's this peak, ramping up, and then you're talking about your age, 20s, 30s, 40s, and now, the healthier you are, you can extend that, right? I mean, I've seen, my wife and I talk about this all the time. We see people walking around, and you think that they're like in their 60s, and you find out, oh no, they're like my age, almost 40. And you're like, what? Hard living, that's what it is. They don't take care of themselves. So no, I am not really looking for you to know all the pieces that are happening each trimester kind of thing. I don't need all that much detail. This is meant to be a fairly broad test.
For the hormonal changes
Yep.
in pregnancy, do you want us to know the 20.2 chart?
There is a chart that has a lot of detail in it. I'm looking for like one sentence. How does HCG change? What does it do? What does estrogen? How does estrogen change? What does it do? Yeah. So the textbook, there's like a whole section on each of those pieces. Just one or two sentences. That's all I'm looking for. Any other pieces here? Yes. Oh, surfactant. Thank you. I apologize. That's what started this whole thing. Remember, in the video, what did they say is the last organ to develop? The lungs. Okay? So remember the alveoli. We've talked about the alveoli a little bit, but there are these little sacs in the lungs. That's what fills with air. And the capillaries surround that little alveolar sac, and they take the oxygen from the air, bring it into the blood, put the carbon dioxide into the alveoli for you to breathe back out. Are you with me? This little sac, there's fluid that's in there, right? Because the baby is breathing amniotic fluid for the first 9 months, right? The lungs, it comes in and out just like they're breathing, but it's fluid. Are we cool?
Yes, sir.
That first breath is so important because it needs to expand those air sacs. They've been stuck together or they've had fluid on them, and they need to expand to open up for air. Surfactant is something that lowers the surface tension inside that alveoli that lets it come apart easier. Otherwise, the bag would just stick together. The sides would stick together. It wouldn't inflate. Does that make sense? I should get a bag and demonstrate with some water. I don't think I have any bags here. We used to have some bags here. I don't know if there's any here now. It's all right. I'll look at it maybe further. Not there. Does that make sense, though? the surfactant allows the alveoli to expand. And so that's why if at 23, 24 weeks that hasn't been produced yet, very hard for the baby to breathe. Okay? No, do not. We can talk. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions here?
Wait a second, I had a question. I really didn't.
The rest of you, please, if you would go to page 400. 400, actually 402 is even where we're going to spend most of our time today. 402. I figure this is a good topic to talk about right after lunch, the digestive system.
What is happening?
Exactly. This very moment in your stomach and intestines, depending on how long ago it was you ate. 402. It's like a big worm, doesn't it? All right. CJ, did you come up with it?
No, one moment.
All right. Well, if you find it. I'm just going to keep going. Okay. Can someone please tell me, what is the function of the digestive system? What is its role? What's its point? Madam. Beautiful. So to get nutrients for your body. By nutrients, what do we mean? Okay, we want to get energy. How do I get energy?
Proteins and fats and carbohydrates.
Sure. Yeah, this different fuel. There's different pieces that your body then takes and breaks apart chemically to get energy, right? And so we don't eat 402. Are you comfortable that we don't eat molecules that your body can immediately use? Well, very rarely do we do that. We eat these complex things, right? Like this lovely salad here, right? We eat complex things, and then our bodies have to break it down into pieces that the cells can use. It does this two ways, physical and chemical. So how does your body physically break down food? Chewing. That's what these are for, right? Enzyming is actually that does a little bit of physical breakdown, but that's more of a chemical breakdown. Okay? So you are trying to break up the food. That's what, when you chew it, that's your first thing you're doing. The saliva in your mouth dissolves the food. That's how we taste, by the way.
Is physically and mechanically kind of the same thing?
I'm sorry?
Physically and mechanically.
Sure. Yeah. We're breaking it apart, right? Small amounts of that digestive process start right here in the mouth because of these salivary glands. The saliva you produce is not just water. It has enzymes, a lot water, but it has enzymes in it also that starts the breakdown of carbohydrates. Remember we got these three big types of foods, right? Proteins, carbohydrates, fats. Okay, right, lipids are fats. All right, so the mouth is the first part of your digestive system, part of what they call the alimentary canal. That's all of this piece from the mouth all the way down to the anus. If you look on page 403, there's a lovely picture that shows you the whole route from the tongue all the way down. It's this picture right here. Just rolls you all the way down. It's like a big, huge worm. Right? Christy loves worms. Okay? So what's the function of the mouth? Digestively, obviously. Sure, mechanical breakdown, and it's holding the saliva, right? That's why they say you should chew your food something on the order of like 25 times before you swallow it. Try it sometime, by the way. It's tough. Tough to do. Most people average like 5, maybe 6 chews. And it's down. Maybe 10.
Can we try right now? Are you done with your salad, Ken?
We'll just pass it around. Is that okay? Good. Behind the mouth, Stay with me now. We get this piece called the pharynx. The pharynx is kind of like the common spot. It's got one tube that goes to the respiratory system, the trachea, and one tube that goes to the digestive system, the esophagus. And this is kind of like the meeting point of those two places. There's a little flap that covers over the top of it. I'm trying to find you a good picture here. There we go. This little flap right here called the epiglottis. That thing is what, you realize you can't swallow and breathe at the same time, right? If you try to swallow and you try and breathe at the same time, what happens? You cough, you choke, right? You can't swallow and breathe at the same time. Like, yeah, breathe in, breathe out, either way. There has to be a pause. Sure. And the reason why is because this epiglottis. Shh, stay with me. You're all trying to breathe and swallow at the same time, right? Nice. Impressive. You can't do it. Here's the larynx. Here's the esophagus. Shh, 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 shh. Stay with me now.
What about your nose and mouth?
You can't do it. Can't do it. Nose, it's the same tube, right? Still comes down to the pharynx. Shh. Thank you. Wow, I didn't know. It's such a big deal. This epiglottis basically helps figure out which way it's going to go. Normally, we are not taking in food into our mouth, right? So the default position is open trachea. Open larynx, so you can get air down to your lungs, because we do that, probably 20 times a minute, breathing in, breathing out. When we need to swallow, what happens is this thing flaps down and covers the opening to that larynx, covers the opening to the trachea, the larynx just being the top part of it, and allows you to swallow, to take that food or liquid or whatever it is and put it down into the esophagus to go to your stomach, not go down into your trachea, into your lungs. That's what we call pneumonia, right? Pneumonia is fluid in the lungs. Bad things in the lungs. We don't want that, because you can get very sick, you can die, truthfully, from pneumonia.
Does it happen if you're in the cold or outside and it's raining and the cold and no shoes on? People say it's like cold outside.
Yeah, I have not read any significant studies. They've done some studies trying to prove this relation between temperature and getting sick. It's a fair thing. But it certainly seems anecdotal that you do that stuff and you go out with wet hair, and it happens to me all the time. And you get sick, right?
You can swallow air, though, right?
You can swallow air, right? When you swallow air, so that's air into your stomach, then what do? You burp it up. That's what a burp is. You're removing that air from your stomach. Sometimes rather forcibly and loudly, depending on how impressive you are. Right? We used to have a burping contest. It'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Put that as part of our grade.
Wait, one time Eddie burped 127 times.
It's impressive.
It was this tiny. We were stuck in traffic on so. 127.
You gotta do something.
It wasn't that many.
Gotta do something, right? Okay. Let's continue on with this digestive system. So, the food, you swallow it. Goes down your mouth, past your pharynx, right, the connecting tube between the two, between the trachea and the esophagus, and into that esophagus. And this is all smooth muscle, esophagus is, that does this thing called peristalsis. It contracts like a snake. It contracts here, it contracts and contracts, and moves that food like little waves down into your stomach. Your question?
What's the difference between the pharynx and the larynx?
The larynx is the very top part of the trachea. You won't have to know that. But yeah, it's the very top part of the trachea. The trachea is below that. Okay, from the esophagus, it moves into the stomach. What's the stomach's job? Okay, it starts the breaking the food down. How does it do that?
With a little acid.
Sure, stomach acid, right? Very, very acidic, this gastric acid that's produced. What else does it produce? I'm really just looking at this diagram on 402. That's all I want you to know.
Enzymes.
Sure, enzymes, good. I thought you all have your textbooks, that's why I was saying. Yeah, it's producing enzymes, right? It also does this mixing thing. You've heard your stomach gurgling before? Perhaps it is even right now as your food isn't mixing. It literally is taking and contracting in these cycles that mixes the food up. Right?
So then when it hurts,
Oh, there's lots of things that can cause stomach pain. Maybe you've eaten too much, so it's like too full. Maybe there's some bacteria or something that is causing an infection, causing some irritation there, and so it's just kind of, I need to vomit. There's a lot of reasons. It can be referred pain that you feel in your stomach that's not actually from there. Are you with me, friends? And it starts this digestive process, right? It starts to digest proteins. So we started digesting carbohydrates in the mouth, right? These sugars. But then proteins are starting to be broken down in the stomach itself. Its main job, though, is to mix those food together and to start that digesting process. Food hangs out there for maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours after you eat, and then passes out into the small intestines. You can see here the kind of the path. You eat into the esophagus and the stomach. You pass now past the pancreas and gallbladder into the small intestine. What's the small intestine do? What's its job?
suck out the nutrients.
It's all about breaking down the food. That's exactly right. All about getting these complex things we're eating and breaking it into molecules that our bodies can use. How do they do that? Well, they have some help. You have the liver, which I feel terrible because there's a whole big, huge section about the liver. The liver is the biggest organ in our whole body. There's a lovely chart. Got to find you a page. In this chapter 15 that talks about the liver, the functions of the liver. Nope. That's where I'm at. Sorry, I can't find it. There we go. On page 418. This is not a chart you have to know, but I want to point it out to you. The liver is a very important organ. Page 418. 418. And there are tons of things that the liver does. 418. Oh, well. The new book is 418. Talking about it metabolizes carbohydrates, it breaks down carbohydrates, breaks down fats, breaks down proteins. It stores different pieces, it filters blood, it removes toxins. So, I mean, this liver is an amazing organ that does tremendous things. But in the digestive system, what we're really talking about it is this fact that it produces this thing called bile. And the only way I can tell you what bile is, have you ever been so sick that you haven't been eating anything?
Oh, no.
And you've already thrown up everything you've eaten. And all you're doing is throwing up
Liquid.
this liquidy, nasty, browny, gross tasting stuff. Yeah, that's bile. Okay, this is the stuff that your liver has produced to help digest food that is no longer in your stomach. And you're actually bringing it up because there's nothing else there. It's some stomach acid and it's bile.
And that's why people who are like, was it like
Anorexic, usually. Well, it can be either.
Yeah.
They're vomiting this stuff up.
kind of gets burned up.
Exactly. Vocal cords get burned. The teeth, actually, usually dentists who first diagnose that disease because their teeth get not rotted away, but like burned away from the acid in their stomach from constantly vomiting. So that when that bile is produced, it's stored in the gallbladder. That green thing, remember our cats? That nice green piece is the gallbladder. So that's just a storage place for this bile. The liver's producing it, and then once you eat, about an hour or so later, it squirts that bile out into the small intestine to start really hammering this digestive process. Notice how long this small intestine is. When it's saying small, it doesn't mean length, it means diameter. And you remember that from the cats, right? Much smaller than the large intestine, which had a larger diameter. Why do you think it's so long? Yeah, it's like 6 meters. You know, we're talking about 18, 20 feet in length, these small intestines. Why does it need to be so long? Sure. It gives me lots of time, right? The food's got to go all the way through this thing, and by the time it reaches the end, should be pretty well broken down into these simple things. Lots of blood vessels around the large intestine and the small intestine. Remember your cats? Remember how there's that mesentery over top and lots of arteries and veins coming in because it wants to absorb all those nutrients that gets absorbed in the bloodstream. So small intestine, its main job is to mix the bile from the liver, and also the pancreas produces this stuff called pancreatic juice. Kind of an easy name to remember, right? Like you can squeeze it and put it in a cup, right? No. But the point of that is that continues to break down. Continues to break down these foods in that small intestine. It works all the way through, and of course that's where the nutrients are absorbed. That's really probably the most important thing. We've broken down the food, and your body's absorbing these nutrients. Then finally it's going to pass from the small intestine into the large intestine. By the way, you can see a little appendix, little thing sticking out there right here.
So little.
Yeah, just a little tiny little finger-like thing sticking on the end. You want to? No, be nice. She shouldn't, you're right, but she does consistently, so. So, from the small intestine, it goes into the large intestine, right? What is the goal here? What's the point of this large intestine?
More digested.
You'd think more digestion, but really not. At this point, it's pretty well digested. What'd you say? Yeah. This is where now it's going to start absorbing the water that was used in this process, maybe from what you drank, or maybe just the water that's been put in from these pancreatic juices in the bile. It's taking what is a very liquidy, mushy kind of thing and making it much more solid, right? So that eventually, by the time it makes this journey from the right side of your body all the way up and over and down and out the rectum and anus, you've got this nice formed feces. That's just the way it's supposed to be. Yes?
Is poop brown because of bile?
That's one of the reasons. Sure, yeah. Sure. Yeah, but it can change color depending on what you eat. Sure, there are wide varieties of colors. Yeah, from the liver, sure.
Wait, so if someone starves to death, you don't actually need like substantive food. You just need the stuff in your brain.
Okay.
Like you don't need the massive things. So
No.
If you're like stranded on an island or whatever, then you're gonna live until all the nutrients in your body are just used up.
Right, your body will start eating itself. Like it'll break down the muscles for the protein. Yeah. CJ, you had a question? Yes, there is methane that are involved in some of them. Yes. Search Mythbusters. They did it. Yeah.
So can you make a
Can you catch it on fire? Yes. Yes. Like I said, search Mythbusters. You'll find it.
end of the year project?
No, let's not say we did. Here's one of those funny things that you may not think about. In your large intestine, and the small intestine as well, but large intestine is one that has more. Do you know, stay with me now, that in that large intestine, you actually have more cells that are not of your body than there are cells that are of your body. There are more cells not of your body in the small and large intestine than are in the whole rest of your body. What are they? They're bacteria. They're bacteria. And you say, ew, that's so gross. No, that's very good. These bacteria, what they do is they break down some of these foods and allow us to get nutrition from food that if that bacteria was not there, we could not get those nutrients. It would just pass through. What's that? You are. We get it from our mothers. Yeah. How many of you have had taken antibiotics before? Good. After you take antibiotics, or while you're taking antibiotics, what does your doctor tell you to take? Yogurt. Probiotics, right? Yeah. These things are, you're trying to replace, because the antibiotics kill all that bacteria in your stomach. Not all of it, but much of it. And we want to replace it with good stuff, with stuff that we need to be able to digest food.
So that's why you eat simple things.
Sure, absolutely. When you're on antibiotics, you want to eat simpler things, definitely. If you've been sick, you've been on antibiotics, you want to make sure you eat yogurts. And there are pills you can take, probiotic pills.
Does yogurt make your immune system stronger?
Sure, yogurt contains bacteria. They call it cultures, active and live cultures. Yeah. And the point of it is that it helps break down these food. It's not gross at all. Okay, I'll tell you what's a little bit gross.
Oh, is it going to ruin yogurt for us?
No, I don't think so.
Are there bugs in yogurt?
Are you comfortable that there are people who get sick, very, very sick, and they cannot, like the bacteria just will not grow back in their stomach? This is going to gross you out. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't want to hear. I'm so nervous. Go.
So they will do a fecal transplant. It sounds disgusting. But that truthfully, they will take somebody else's feces and implant it in that large intestine.
Why?
Why? Why would you do this? I'm just telling you. But think about it. No, think about it. Now don't. It's a whole lot. There's a whole lot more to it than just that. Okay? But truthfully, what would that do? Why would that be important? Right. You're giving the seeds for this new bacterial colonies to form. I'm telling you, this has been over maybe the last 10 years or so they've started doing this more. And I don't know the whole process that well, but yeah, like almost like an enema kind of thing. Yeah. Quite interesting. I was just reading an article about this a couple of days ago. That's why it stuck in my mind. Do you want to get well? Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sure, right.
Okay, I have a question.
Sir, we got 4 minutes. It'll be quick.
Is it possible that if something is messed up with like down here
Shh.
back up out of the
So it usually will not back up that far, but yes, it can back up. My son is a tremendous example of this. He has had issues bowel-wise for his whole growing up years. And there was a time when he hadn't had a bowel movement for a week. And we take him into the hospital, and they do an x-ray, and sure enough, like all that large intestine is backed up into the small intestines. Yeah, and so they have to give these really powerful laxatives to move things out.
I've heard of like when your feces like it comes out of your intestines, there's a puncture.
Oh, sure, if there's a hole in there, yeah. Oh, that's terrible. Because now you're getting all that bacteria into the insides of your body. You know, it sounds like, well, no, wait, this is disgusting to have bacteria in your intestines, but it's not. It's good. It's designed that way. The rest of your body, oh no, that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. Last but not least, you have the rectum. They call them the rectum. Why do they call it the rectum? What does that sound like? Straight, rectus, right? Rectus femoris, rectus abdominis. Rectus means straight. To rectify something means to straighten it out, right? Yeah, to make it right. Okay? So truthfully, that's what I want you to know about the digestive system. When I asked you for your final to know these pieces, that's what it said on your sheet, right? Know this diagram, know the functions. That's what I'm talking about. One word, one sentence about each of those pieces. Oba Katie? Did you get your question, CJ, for tomorrow? All right. Good. Can't leave yet. Wait till the bell rings. Then we'll let you get out of here.